Welcome to the Chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 26 of Chalk Talk, brought to you by the Painted Lines. I'm your host, Shane Half. You can follow me on Twitter at @halfandhalf_TPL. I'm joined tonight, as always, by the best co-host in the game. You've seen him on the Tough Cover Pod. It's Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at @MarkHenryJr_. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here for the previews. I always enjoyed the previews more than the reviews. I think it plays to the gambler in me a little bit more. We're picking games at the end, so I'm always excited to be talking football.
All right. We got a great show lined up for you guys today. Going to preview every single Week 11. I think this is Week 11.
Yep.
It gets confusing. Every single Week 11 game. But before we get to that, this podcast is live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. And so please drop us a comment as we're live here. We love to throw those up and interact with you guys. If you are listening later on archive on Apple Podcasts, we appreciate you guys too. Please follow, rate, and review. And hey, maybe you can make it for a live show sometime. We'd love to interact with you guys as well. And so let's dive into it. Right off the top here, let's get into the Eagles game hosting the New Orleans Saints. The Eagles are winless at home this season, Mark. Is that going to change this week? Let's talk about it. I forgot to pull the injury report. I'm just realizing. I was putting together my show notes this morning, and I was like, I'm going to wait on the injury report to come out of practice, and I never went back. But have you heard anything about injuries? And then if not, pick a side of the ball, and I'm going to look it up here.
No, we can circle back on the injuries while you look it up. I think the main focus has to be on the offense, as you know, every week it kind of is with, you know, a young quarterback that we're hoping on development and a head coach that's calling plays on offense as a rookie who's making tremendous strides in the last 3 weeks. So those are always going to be the main focus. That's the main focus this week. And it's the main focus going into a game against New Orleans where they are, depending what metric you look at, anywhere from first to third against the rush, depending on, you know, what you want to look at. And we've obviously revamped this offense and created a different identity for this offense that has been based on running the ball. And that's a stark contrast to where we were at the beginning of the year, throwing the ball God knows how many times. You know, we were running the ball a handful of times per game. And now it's the opposite. So I think we could be getting, and I've said this a couple times, but I've been wrong. I think we could be getting to a more normal pass run balance in this matchup, a more, you know, average in terms of the NFL across the league type of pass run ratio in this game. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have to throw. He's going to have to make some throws to win this game, and he obviously made a lot of throws last week to win last week's game, if there weren't that many attempts. But I think there's going to be 30 plus attempts in this game. I'm actually curious, and I'll look it up while you're talking about the injury report. I'm curious what Jalen Hurts over-under on pass attempts is in this game, and I'm going to look at this game log. But did you pull up the injury report?
Okay, yeah, so it looks like the Eagles just did a walkthrough today. And so Dallas Goedert and Davion Taylor both were limited. They only participated in walkthroughs. So if it was a full practice, they both would have been held out. Taylor with a knee, Goddard still obviously has to be cleared from concussion protocol independently from the team. So we'll see if that happens. On the Saints side of the ball, Alvin Kamara was a limited participant Wednesday. He did not participate today, so it doesn't look good that he's going to play. And also, both of their offensive tackles, Armstead and Ramczyk, both were out of practice today. So potentially some huge injuries for the Saints on that offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it cannot be overstated how important Alvin Kamara is to that offense. You could argue now that Derrick Henry is out, you could argue that he's maybe the most important non-quarterback to any offense in the NFL. I wonder if you'd have a rebuttal for me there.
No, I probably would, even if just because they have nothing else. I mean, if Michael Thomas was playing, if Jameis Winston was healthy, that's probably not the case, but he's literally the only weapon that they have. And so when you're rolling out a third-string quarterback and you have no receivers, that running back becomes really important.
I can't find a prop for Jalen Hurts pass attempts. His passing yards is 206.5. I could see that going over. I could see this being a game, especially if Goddard plays. I don't know what your guess is on that. Obviously, it's hard to to make a guess about a concussion. But if Goddard plays, I feel really good about our ability to pass on the Saints defense. I think they're vulnerable in that area, obviously a lot more vulnerable in that area than they are against the rush. But I don't think that we're going to get shut down. I don't think that this is a rush defense that you can't even dream about running against. Obviously, the numbers are really, really good for their run defense, but I think we'll be able to get something going, even if not with traditional running. I think Jalen Hurts will be able to get free on a couple third downs and make a couple plays with his feet, whether that be a designed run or whether that be a scramble.
So over the last 3 games, the Eagles have averaged just over 210 yards per game on the ground with 2 touchdowns and 5.1 yards per carry. On the flip side, the Saints have the number 1 run defense in nearly every category. They allow 3.1 yards per attempt. The next best is Tampa Bay at 3.7, so it's not even particularly close. Like, they're 20% better than Tampa Bay, who is number 2. When the Eagles played the Bucs earlier this year, they only handed it off to Miles Sanders 9 times. No other running back had a carry. Of course, Jalen Hurts scrambled 10 times, but those weren't really designed runs. And so I'm interested to see this newfound commitment to the running game is about to be tested in a major way. I'm interested to see how the Eagles approach that. I don't think you're going to see 9 or 10 runs, but I also don't think you're going to see 35 runs. I think you're going to see more of that meeting in the middle, more of a balanced thing. And I mean, hey, if the Eagles offensive line is able to bully the Saints defensive front early, you stick with it. But I don't think they're going to have the success they have had. They do have a very, very good blocking offensive line, though. And Dallas Goedert is a big part of that. He's a really good run blocking tight end. So it is impactful if he doesn't play, passing game aside. Although I will say I was impressed with Jack Stoll, his blocking, when I went back and kind of watched. He did a pretty good job there as well. So maybe not a huge downgrade in terms of blocking there, but you definitely hope Goddard plays, and I just have no idea if he will or not.
Well, yeah, Stoll's there for his blocking, right? If I'm not mistaken, that's why he's on the team. So
essentially, yeah.
You'd hope that he'd be able to fill in that role. But yeah, Goddard's been. He's a great blocker. It's part of why I think he will get paid this off season. So yeah, it can't be stated enough how important he is for my confidence going into the game. I think they'll win without him. But if we have him fully healthy and we have Goddard going and there's no restrictions or limitations on him, I feel good about our offense going against their defense. And it's hard to overlook the fact that we have a lot of the same pieces against a lot of the same pieces defensively that the Saints had last year when we did beat them for Jalen Hurts' first career win. So I think that was a better Saints team. I think that was a better Saints defense. And I think that this is a better Eagles team, especially at this point in the year after the last couple of weeks, than that Eagles team was last year, that corpse of a roster going down the stretch, finishing out Doug Peterson's tenure here. That team didn't have Devonta Smith, who obviously had his best game of the year last week. And, you got to hope that he's only going up. Not to say that he's going to score 2 touchdowns every week, but you can only expect him to be that type of consistent producer in this offense.
He had 1 touchdown 2 weeks ago. He had 2 last week. He better get 3 this week or I'm going to be disappointed. But now I am excited to see what Devonta Smith can do against Marshawn Lattimore, who, he's a very good cornerback. He's not a guy that he's not prime Richard Sherman that you just eliminate that half of the field or something. So I'm interested to see Smith go up against Lattimore and see if he's able to get the best of him. Smith's the only receiver doing anything for the Eagles. That's it. Jalen Reagor is a waste of time. Quez Watkins, you can hit for those deep balls, but it's nothing consistent. It's a big play here or there and maybe weeks between them. And so he's going against a really good cornerback, especially if Goddard isn't able to go. If Marshawn Lattimore gets the best of Devonta Smith, you got to wonder who's going to step up there.
Is it going to be Miles Sanders, who looks like he's going to return here? I've seen a lot of arguments for and against Miles Sanders this week on Twitter. I've seen some people saying, y'all are crazy who think Miles Sanders isn't RB1. And then I've seen a lot of people saying Miles Sanders isn't even going to get work this weekend. I think both of those are probably wrong. I think it's going to be a 3-headed monster. I think I could see all of Sanders, Howard, and Boston Scott being utilized about the same amount. Maybe obviously if one gets hot and gets the hot hand, I think that'll be the one that gets used more often. But I mean, going into the game, I think they'll anticipate using all three of them about the same amount.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles don't have a running back one. They don't. This is firmly a committee team, and it's because they don't have that bell cow guy. That's not Miles Sanders. You and I have talked about that in the offseason. Jordan Howard is a better pass blocker than Miles Sanders, so I think you see him used in that role some. And then, Howard, he's not going to break. I don't know what his long for the year is. I doubt it's over 20 yards. He might have had one over that, but he's just a north and south runner. He's going to hit a hole. He's going to fall forward. That's it. He's not a home run threat. Miles Sanders is a home run threat, and he's also a threat to dance in the backfield and lose yardage. And so, there's give and take there. They can play off of each other well. I think you'll see a lot less of Boston Scott if Miles Sanders is back, which he's technically still on IR. He's been designated for return, which opens that practice window, but that doesn't mean that he'll even be off of IR by Sunday. I guess we'll wait and see on that.
Yeah, it's definitely a mystery. Obviously, it seems like he's projected points in the fantasy app. If that's any inclination of anything, I imagine they have some sort of inside info there. But I do think he'll end up playing. I think he'll come back this week, and maybe that's in a limited role. Maybe that's with 5 to 7 carries, and then you see Jordan Howard get 8 to 10 carries, and you see Boston Scott get a couple catches and here and there. It'll be interesting to see if they use Miles Sanders in the passing game or if it's going to be Boston Scott or Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah, absolutely. Then, on the defensive side of the ball, we talked about Alvin Kamara, and it looks increasingly unlikely he's going to play, which is great news for the Eagles. If he does go, he is the top passing target for the Saints, who have almost nothing at wide receiver. Their receivers are awful. And so you look at Kamara, a guy they throw to a lot, and you say the Eagles don't have a linebacker that can cover him. My guess would be they would try to use Davion Taylor to match speed. Taylor's still a work in process. Maybe you get Marcus Epps in there and let him try. But the Eagles don't have a good answer for Alvin Kamara if he plays. And so Eagles fans can certainly cross their fingers and hope that he does not play in this game.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it's trending towards him not playing. So I'm kind of going into this game anticipating that. I believe that there's been a jump in this Eagles line up to 2.5 now from -1. I believe that that's probably in relation to the Alvin Kamara rumors out there that he's not going to play. And I think that that's fair for that line to move because of Alvin Kamara, because like I said, he is the most important non-quarterback in the league to their team now that Derrick Henry's hurt. And honestly, we're seeing now, since Tennessee looks so good without Derrick Henry, you might just be able to take out that disclaimer about Derrick Henry, because I think you could argue Alvin Kamara might be more important to that Saints team than Henry is to that Titans team, even if he's not in the MVP discussion. Just by definition of valuable to their team, Kamara might be more valuable. That Saints offense looked dead for a lot of that game last week. I know they ended up coming back. I know they got screwed by a bad call, but for a long period of that game, it just felt like every time they got the ball, they were punting pretty fast.
Yeah, you mentioned the Derrick Henry. I'll pull this stat out now instead of saving it for later. I don't know if we can remove that disclaimer. The Titans are only averaging 67 yards a game on the ground since Henry went down. So, he's definitely still very important. But
for sure,
We've got Bowtie Band chiming in on YouTube, says, "What's up, fellas? I'm amped about this game. I think we get our first home win. Certainly hoping so. The Eagles are 0-4 at the Link this year. Every win has come on the road, and so hopefully we can reverse that trend and get that first home win today or this weekend."
And let me just say, I think I saw the tickets were cheaper for this Saints game than for any of the remaining home Eagles games. I don't think we play another home game for quite a while. After this game, I think we play a couple road games consecutively. The next time the Eagles play a home game, it's going to be really, really cold, as if it's not going to be already this Sunday. If I wasn't going away to a wedding this weekend, then I would definitely be buying tickets and going. So I'm jealous of anyone that's going to be going down there for the tailgate and for the game. I think you will see the Eagles get their first home win.
Yeah, their next home game is on December 19th. So got a sizable gap there. 2 road games and a bye week.
Yes.
So we talked about the Saints receivers. The Saints receivers are terrible. This is a game the Eagles, they should be playing a lot of press coverage. And in my opinion, they should be bringing a lot of pressure at Trevor Siemian. Simeon's time to throw is 2.86 seconds this season, which isn't fast. It's not the slowest. Jalen Hurts, I think, was over 3 for a while. I haven't checked it recently, but the Eagles haven't gotten much in the way of pressure this year, just from their defensive line. With receivers that are so bad, and especially if Kamara doesn't play, the Eagles should really just throw the kitchen sink at Trevor Siemian, in my opinion. This is a guy, he hasn't thrown an interception yet. He's not particularly good, but he hasn't made the mistakes. I think they could force the issue and try to make him make some mistakes in this game.
Yeah, I think you have to just attack him and blitz him with all you got. And hopefully Gannon sees that. I hope Gannon isn't afraid to be aggressive against Trevor Siemian, because if he's afraid to be aggressive against Trevor Siemian, he's going to be afraid to be aggressive against anyone. But he was a bit more aggressive against Jared Goff and Detroit, at least in the first half of that game. So here's to hoping we kind of come in with the same philosophy as we did with that Lions game defensively.
And on the rewatch of the Denver game, he was actually not passive against Teddy Bridgewater. It wasn't a lot of blitzing. There was some, but he was rotating some coverages and showing some press and some things like that. So, hopefully the defense is able to get off the field, force some turnovers, give the offense some short fields. But I feel pretty confident about this game, assuming Alvin Kamara doesn't play. If Kamara doesn't play and Goddard does play, just lock it in. But those two are big names that are kind of still up in the air. So, it's an iffy game for me, but I'm going to take the Eagles in this one. I think, Kamara is a bigger piece for them than Goddard is for us. And so if they both play or they both don't play, it all kind of balances out in the end. But I like the Eagles in this one, getting their first win at the Link, and then we start talking about the playoffs.
That's true. I was feeling really good about the playoffs on Monday morning after that win. And then San Fran won that game on Monday night, and it kind of put a little bit of a damper on it, because now San Fran's 4-5. They're right in the thick of things in that wild card. I do think they're still better than us. And more importantly, they have the tiebreaker over us if it were to come down to it, and for the spot in the wild card. If I had to make a prediction right now on those two wild card spots, it would actually be San Fran and Minnesota taking a step up and getting those two spots. But if you're able to beat New Orleans, you probably take the chance from right now being about, I think I saw ESPN had like 44% or 45%, which I think is fair. If they beat New Orleans, it has to go up to 60-65% chance.
I think it's a 30% swing. It's the highest leverage game in terms of playoff impact, according to ESPN's model that happens in Week 11.
Wow, that's definitely interesting.
I think it was 30. I can't remember for sure. I think it was 30. I know it was the highest leverage game, though.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I think this is a huge game for New Orleans. If you look at their upcoming schedule, I think they have Buffalo on it. They obviously have Tampa on it. They have another, it might be Dallas they have on there as well. They have a brutal upcoming schedule. So just like we need this win to start talking about the playoffs, the Saints need this win to keep what they thought was a lock at the playoffs a couple of weeks ago. This is just as important for them as it is for us.
Bowtie chimes in again, says Edwards and Taylor at the linebacker spot. Looks like it's given us a lot more attitude on D. I hope Gannon keeps it up. That personnel switch to get Singleton out of there more has definitely made a big impact. And I love Alex Singleton. He had his time last year and leading tackler and all that, but you can definitely tell his limits. And it has been a very positive switch to see Davion Taylor on the field more. Hopefully he's able to play with that knee injury. Yeah,
it's definitely going to be important. Singleton tricked me for a while last year and thinking he was okay. But this year it just felt like every time he made a tackle, he got dragged 4 to 5 yards. So I think I said it on the review show. You can look at it two ways: glass half full, glass half empty. This roster, we weren't able to diagnose that Davion Taylor and TJ Edwards should have been the linebackers playing from the start, and we were playing Wilson and Singleton. Or you can look at it glass half full and say, at least we figured that out, and at least we fixed that situation. So whichever, if you want to be positive or negative, there's two ways you could look at that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, do you have anything else you want to throw out there about this game before we move on?
No, I think I have the Eagles money line. I took it when it was at -1. So that's a big play for me. I think the Eagles win this game. I think they get up early, and then maybe they struggle to run the ball. Maybe they struggle to salt the game away. New Orleans comes back a little bit, makes it interesting. But I think we end up winning this game. I'll say 24-16 is what I'll go with. Maybe 27-17. And I'm going with Eagles team total over 21.5. They scored 21 plus in 8 straight games. I know that half is right over that number, but I still like over 21.5 on the team total here for the Eagles.
All right. Well, I hope for all of our sakes that your bets hit on Sunday.
Me too.
All right. Let's throw it around the NFL to the game that is on tonight. The New England Patriots at the Atlanta Falcons. Has this game kicked off yet?
Probably just did. I was just going to check.
Probably just kicking off. So we'll get our things in real fast before we know anything. So the Patriots have won 4 straight. They're starting to look like a team that can make a push for the playoffs. The Falcons are inconsistent every week, coming off a 40-point loss to the Cowboys. The Patriots defense is coming alive, 2.75 sacks per game and 2 picks per game in that 4-game win streak. Meanwhile, Mac Jones continues to look a little bit better every week. I'm taking New England in this one. I don't think Atlanta really makes this very competitive. I like Bill Belichick. If the Cowboys can do to Matt Ryan what they did to Matt Ryan, the Bill Belichick defense should be able to do even more. And so I like the Patriots pretty easily in this one.
Yeah, I like the Pats to win the AFC, so obviously I like the Pats to win this game. I stayed away from the spread just because Thursday night football weirdness lately. That Ravens game last week has me scared to bet on Thursday night football. I did put the Pats money line in a parlay with a game we'll get to on Sunday. But the Pats should win this game. I could see it being close. I could see Atlanta getting up early and giving up a lead and everyone making jokes about it on Twitter. It just feels like we're destined to see that tonight. Maybe the Patriots win a weird 23-17 game. I'll say 23-17 just to keep it in that Vegas zone so Vegas makes money because everyone has the Patriots tonight. No one wants to bet the Falcons, so that's always another thing I get nervous about when gambling. So I also, for anyone, it's too late, but I have Kendrick Bourne over 32.5 receiving yards. Kendrick Bourne, one of my low-key favorite players in the NFL. That's like not a star or anything like that. I've always thought he was underrated in San Francisco. Has a nose for the end zone. Has really stepped into a role in New England. I think he's their best receiver. I know Jacoby Myers probably has slightly better numbers, but I think Kendrick Bourne has really gotten a rhythm with Mac Jones these last couple of weeks.
All right, so we both have the Patriots in that one. Let's go on to the next one, Indianapolis at Buffalo. This is an interesting game. So the Colts narrowly beat the Jags last week. They gave up 30 to the Jets the week before. On the season, the Colts have not beaten a team with a winning record. They face the Bills, who have one of the best defenses in the league, particularly against the run. They allow 89.3 yards per game on the ground. But as dominant as the Bills have looked at times, who have they played? Nobody. I went and looked at their strength of schedules. Okay, if you look at the strength of schedule, they have faced the easiest rushing attacks, 32nd ranked passing offenses, 32nd ranked overall offense. So their defense is great. They've played the amalgamation of the worst offenses in the league. As far as their offense, they have played the 21st ranked rushing defense, 32nd ranked pass D, and 32nd D overall. And so the Bills have looked dominant at times, yes. They have also played absolutely nobody. So I think this game is going to tell us a lot about two teams. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's going to be interesting to watch this game. I took the Colts plus 7.5 because I think this is a 50-50 game if there is any out there. So I think the Colts keep this close. I'm not sure who wins. I think it's going to be 50-50, but I will take the Colts to win the game because it seems like the Bills only know how to win blowouts. They only know how to blow out bad teams. When they've gotten in close games, they've lost close games. I think that happens again here this week. I think they lose a close one to Indy, who kind of surprises some people and gets back into that wild card hunt.
All right, I'm going to take the Bills in this one. The Colts are 5-0 when they rush for 125 yards and 0-5 when they don't, which isn't the best metric. It's the whole, Well, when they run the ball 40 times, they win. Well, yeah, because they ran the ball because they were up by 4 touchdowns. But if you watch the Colts, it's evident that a rushing attack is very important to the Colts offense. And the Bills have one of the best run Ds in the league. I just don't think the Colts have the defense to slow down the Bills. I think Josh Allen's the only guy that can slow down the Bills, and maybe he does, but I trust him more than Carson Wentz at this point. So I'm going to take the Bills. This is definitely a game I'm really interested to see play out, though.
Yeah, one of the more important for playoff implications for sure.
All right, moving on to the Ravens, who travel to Chicago to take on the Bears. Bears coming off a bye week. The Ravens are coming off a week that they basically took off as they lost to Miami. How do you see this one playing out?
This is a game I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. I would not gamble on this game. It does feel like Justin Fields is making strides. 2 big games before the bye. A game-winning drive, really, against Pittsburgh, where what would have been a game-winning drive had they not been screwed. And he had a bye week, maybe Matt Nagy. Did you see what Matt Nagy said today or this week?
Now, I muted the words Matt and Nagy on Twitter.
So he basically, people were giving him an out and asking him to complain about the taunting, how it kind of screwed them over. And he was like, well, I feel very strongly about that taunting rule. And I was part of the committee that came up with those taunting rules. And
of course he was.
I think respect for the game is one of the most important things we have left as a society. All this dumb stuff. It's you realize that your fan base is up in arms about a taunting that cost them the game, and you're going to come out and praise the taunting rule. It's just the least self-aware human being and the worst PR coach of all time is Matt Nagy. So I'll take the Ravens for that reason alone. They win the game. They might. I don't think they'll cover, but they'll win the game.
So the Ravens really struggled last week against that cover zero style of defense that Miami, we talked about on the review show, is uniquely built to play. The Bears don't have the horses to play that kind of defense. I do think there's going to be opportunities to challenge the secondary for Justin Fields. Baltimore likes to bring pressure, and they don't have the best secondary, but they know how to play mobile quarterbacks. So just because they're bringing pressure doesn't mean that Justin Fields is going to run crazy. I mean, this defense practices against Lamar Jackson every week, so they're used to this. That said, Fields had a field day against the Steelers a couple weeks ago, who are another blitz-happy front. And so I
see
think,
what you did there.
Yeah, I wondered if anybody was going to catch that. So Fields he has the field day against the Steelers, who are blitz-happy, and they're better at it than the Ravens are. I think Fields could have a really good game here, but I'm not willing to pick the Bears, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bears pull something out here.
I agree. You said it perfectly.
All right, rolling on. Detroit at Cleveland. Cleveland and Detroit were both embarrassed last week. Yes, it was an embarrassing game for Detroit, even though they did not lose. They tied. That's just as bad. Whatever you think of Baker Mayfield at this point in his career, at this point in his season, and we've had these discussions, it's an indisputable fact that he is better than Mason Rudolph, who Detroit was unable to beat. Nick Chubb is supposed to be back. The Lions are one of the worst run Ds around. I think Cleveland steamrolls Detroit in this one.
I see what you did there too. But I think Cleveland wins this game too. I might bet on this game. I feel like I might end up taking -9.5. But I think Cleveland should absolutely demolish this Lions team, who should be dead in spirit. If you were going to get your win, you were going to do it last week. I do think they'll get a win down the stretch when there's a team who's 5-9 and not really giving it their all and quitting on their coach. They'll eventually get a win. Maybe it's Chicago after or right before. Maybe that's what gets Matt Nagy fired eventually. I don't know when they play. But who knows? I do think they get a win. It's not going to be this week. Cleveland needs to win to keep any semblance of hope alive in the rest of their season. If you look at Cleveland's schedule, brutal, just a brutal schedule. So this is their gimme, basically. Can't mess that up. You got to win this game if you're Cleveland. You got to win it handily.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to start working some puns into my show notes and see how many of them you catch. So moving on to another gimme, Houston travels to Tennessee to take on the Titans. I already spilled the beans on my stat. The Titans averaged 67.5 rushing yards a game since Derrick Henry went down. That said, it does not matter. Tennessee rolls in this one.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. The Titans, I am less confident in ever than in their offense, obviously without Derrick Henry. Take a look. I keep saying take a look at their schedule, but I was doing a bunch of nerd schedule diving earlier on in the day today, so it's all fresh in my mind. And Tennessee's got an easy one, a really, really easy schedule that looks like, hey, even if you don't believe in them, they're going to have a good chance at home field advantage in the playoffs, and then maybe Henry comes back, and maybe this is the year for the Titans. And
they may be the worst 1 seed of all time. Like they are not a good 8-2 team. And they've got such an easy schedule. Like it's conceivable they're going to get the 1 seed and lose their first playoff game. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but they are definitely a different team without Derrick Henry.
For sure.
Okay, Green Bay at Minnesota. Minnesota, you mentioned them earlier. They have played in 8 one-score games this season.
Out of 9 games.
Yeah, out of 9 games. This should be a good game. I mean, the law of averages tells us it's probably going to be a close one. Rodgers looked really bad last week. Question is, can he bounce back in his second game?
You have to imagine he can, but Minnesota has had success against Green Bay. Even in these last couple of years, Minnesota has done really well against Green Bay. Mike Zimmer has done really well against Aaron Rodgers. So is this bad Minnesota defense able to do that this week? I'm not quite sure. I do think Green Bay wins the game. This is a game I'm staying away from for sure. But this is a huge game for Minnesota. If you're Green Bay and you win this game, you lock up the division. If you're Minnesota and you win this game, in my opinion, you're in the driver's seat for making a run at one of the wild cards. So it couldn't be a bigger game for either of these teams.
Yeah, I think out of in their last 9 meetings, Rodgers is 5-4 against Minnesota. So he drops to 500 with a loss here. I'm going to tell you right now, I know exactly how this game is going to play out. Minnesota will get an early lead. They will blow that lead in the third quarter. Then they will reclaim that lead at the start of the fourth quarter before they blow that lead again. And then Kirk Cousins will lead a game-winning drive to about the 40-yard line. And then the Vikings will miss a field goal as time expires because that is the most Vikings game ever. So you heard it here first. Big lead, blow it, get it back, blow it again, and then miss now let's make it like a 30-yard field goal. That's more Vikings. And then they'll miss a chip shot field goal that would have won them the game.
It's more painful, which is Vikings fandom. For anyone out there who watches How I Met Your Mother, Jason Segel's character in that show is a Vikings fan, and they go to a Vikings bar in New York City, and anytime anyone says the name Morton Anderson, who missed the kick in 2000, everyone in the bar like stops and looks over at the one bar, and it's funny just like how ingrained in their fandom kicker bullshit is. Like they just like have had the worst luck with kicker. And you remember this game must have been 10 years ago now, but it sticks so deep in my head. The game against Seattle that they had to play on like the University of Minnesota's field because their stadium was being built, and it was like 10 miles or like crazy wind, crazy snow, and Blair Walsh had to kick a field goal from like the 4-yard line and completely shanked it.
Yeah, that was to go. That was either to go to the playoffs or a playoff game.
It was a playoff game.
I remember that. I only wish the double doink had happened to the Vikings instead of Bears. But I'll take Green Bay in this game. I got a lot more faith in Aaron Rodgers than I do in Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, it's that simple.
Okay, rolling on, the Miami Dolphins traveling to the Meadowlands to take on the Jets in what should be one of the worst games of the week. The Jets are allowing 43.8 points per game in their last 4 games. The Dolphins have won 2 in a row, and they've got a very good defense. Joe Flacco gets the start for the Jets, so they're finally going to start the guy they traded for. I guess he is their 4th-string quarterback, and he is going to get the go. Man, this game's going to be terrible to watch, but I'll take the Dolphins in this one. They at least have a good defense.
If Tua's playing, I like the Dolphins here. Regardless, I like the Dolphins, actually. But if Tua's playing, I might actually like like bet on the Dolphins. Joe Flacco, it is so funny that Joe Flacco is starting for them again after last year when like all the jokes about the Joe Flacco, Frank Gore or running back tandem. I remember I listened to one podcast and the one guy's a Jets fan on it. And I remember when they drafted Zach Wilson, they did a whole segment. It's like, oh, I'm just so happy I don't have to watch Joe Flacco anymore. And it's like, well, here you go.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
I'm glad I never had to watch him outside of the preseason.
Oh, and that was rough to watch.
Okay, the Washington football team travels to Carolina. This game is the return of Cam Newton as a starter and the return of Ron Rivera. So quarterback takes on a former coach. How do you see this one going down?
Will it be the return of Taylor Heineke to his non-Tampa Bay form? Who's to say? We don't know. Maybe he's recaptured his powers now that he beat Tampa Bay. That's all he needed. Like he played his best game in the playoffs last year against Tampa Bay, but because he didn't beat him, he didn't get like the Thanos Infinity Glove. Now that he beat them, he just has like quarterbacking down pat.
You think they could talk Cam into wearing Brady's number for the game?
Yeah, I mean, Taylor Heineke, I really hope he continues to make me look smart after making me look dumb for a long time. But I think this is going to be a fun game. No matter what, I'm very interested in this game, which is not something I expected a few weeks ago if you looked at the schedule. I think the Cam Newton thing's fun. Whether or not it works out, it's a fun storyline. That if this game was PJ Walker versus Ryan Fitzpatrick, I would not be looking forward to this game. But I think Cam and Heineke are both fun to watch, and I think this will be a fun one. I think it'll be close. So I guess give me the underdog. Give me Washington since they're the underdog here.
I think it's a potential letdown spot for Washington after they upset the Bucs. Now they've got to go on the road. Cam Newton, he may or may not be a very good passer anymore. I tend to think he's not that good of a passer anymore. I'm not as far gone on him as you are, but his legs do open up the ground game for Christian McCaffrey a lot. And so I'm interested to see how they integrate that. He's only been back in Carolina for 9-10 days by the time this game is played. And so I don't expect it to be a large playbook, but I do expect to see a lot of read option stuff, some things to try to open that up. And I'm interested to see how that works against a Washington front that we thought would be really good coming into this year. It hasn't played out that way, but they still have a lot of talent. Of course, now they're missing Chase Young for the year. I'm not sure if Montez Sweat's back for this game or not, but regardless, I'm interested to see how this plays out and how they use Cam Newton in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting to see if anyone is able to draw up an offense for Cam Newton with Christian McCaffrey out there. It'll be Joe Brady.
Yeah. So I'll take Carolina in this one, but like you said, I'm more intrigued by this game than I thought I would be.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. This is definitely one I'll have my eyes on.
So San Francisco travels to Jacksonville. This is a cross-country trip on a short week for the 49ers after a big win on Monday Night Football. So, potential letdown spot maybe. The Jags have played quietly. They've played a one-score game 3 out of the last 4 weeks, largely on the strength of their defense. The offense still hasn't gotten a ton going, although they did put up 17 on the Colts. Where do you see this one headed?
Sorry, that technical issues real quick. My headphones stopped working. What game were we saying there? I'm sorry.
The 49ers traveling to Jacksonville.
Yep. I have the 49ers in a parlay with the Pats money line. That was what I was referring to when we were talking about that Pats game earlier. And these were games where I think the Pats were a 6.5-point favorite. I think the Niners were a 6.5-point favorite as well. So I threw the money lines together because they're both games that I think the Pats and the 49ers will figure out how to beat inferior opponents and win the games. But I'm a little nervous to lay those points because I think that they could be weird, sloppy games and low scoring. So I think Pats 49ers moneyline parlay came out to -111. That's what I'm rolling with in this game.
All right, yeah, I've got the 49ers in this one as well. Would love for the Jags to beat them for the Eagles wild card purposes. I just don't. I mean, I've said it before. I have no faith in Urban Meyer or that team. So. Rolling on, we've got Cincinnati at Las Vegas playing the Raiders. in a game that's just who the heck knows. Raiders in a must-win situation as their season. They're in the middle of letting a third season in a row slip away from them after a strong start. Cincinnati's coming off of a bye week after back-to-back losses to the Jets and the Browns. I think I trust Cincinnati more in this game, but the Raiders, they've got the strong pass rush. Cincinnati's offensive line is still an issue. Cincinnati still likes to empty out the backfield, and so there's a circumstance where even if Derek Carr and the offense don't get going, maybe Deshaun Jackson once again forgets how to catch a pass and run into the end zone. I realize we never talked about that. But did you see that clip?
Yeah.
That? I don't even know what happened there. But there's a scenario where the Raiders offense doesn't play well, but their pass rush is able to keep them in this game anyways. So something to watch out for. But overall, I'm going to take the Bengals in this one.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bengals. I love the Bengals here. It's actually my favorite play of Sunday. I think this is the exact time you want to play the Raiders. I mean, I think I said it on the last show, but they're going on a late season swoon that John Gruden would be proud of. This is exactly what their MO is, and I think it continues here. It's a loser leaves town game. I trust Cincinnati, as an organization, which is funny to say, more than the Raiders to get this right and to move in the right direction with their young core in Joe Burrow, in Jamar Chase, and their defense has even surprised with some of the young talent that they've drafted over the last couple of years. I think that continues. I don't think any sort of success is coming for the Raiders for the rest of this year. I think it's going to be a dark second half of this season in the black hole.
All right, so we both got the Bengals in that one. Let's roll on to Seattle, where the Arizona Cardinals come to town facing the Seahawks. I think this game comes down to health. Is Kyler Murray going to play? Is Russell Wilson healthy enough to actually be an upgrade over Geno Smith? Because he certainly wasn't last week. You got the added thing for the Cardinals. If Kyler doesn't play, Colt McCoy also might not be able to play. I didn't write down their third string quarterback's name. I have no idea who it is. So
I think it's Chris Strevler.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. That sounds like a guy that's like a stand-in in some Hollywood movie about a football team. Again, we've said this about a few teams. Another team that should have traded a 6th-round pick for Gardner Minshew. Like, you go 1-1 with Colt McCoy, you got to think you probably go 2-0 with Gardner Minshew. But this game, to me, this game's impossible to pick because you could have anybody from Kyler to Joe Blow off the street playing the game for the Cardinals. For that reason, I'll pick the Seahawks just because I have no idea. But I mean, this is a total crapshoot. I wouldn't touch this game.
Kyler insisted that he feels good enough to play. I think he said something about how he thinks he's going to play, or he's trying towards playing. So I'll take him at his word. I'll take Arizona to win because if Kyler plays, they should win.
Yeah, absolutely. If he plays, you got to like Arizona's chances, and they're in a position now after the loss last week. They need to push. They need to go on a run here to try to lock up that 1 seed from Green Bay.
You can just try to lock up the division. And to
True.
Keep Seattle out of the playoffs. If Seattle loses this game, really hard to make a comeback into making a wild card.
That's true. Okay, rolling on. This is my game of the week here. I'd imagine it's about everybody's. Dallas traveling to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. The Chiefs leading the AFC West. They seem to be back on track. Dallas is coming off of that massacre of the Falcons. This is a showdown between two of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. And it might come down to which defense can get a stop or a turnover. Now, the Chiefs' defense has been hot over the last few games. I don't know if that's a product of the opponents they've played or they're figuring some things out. Dallas's defense has been very opportunistic this year in forcing turnovers, specifically Trevon Diggs. This game, I can't wait to watch this game. It should be great.
Yeah, I think Kansas City keeps rolling here. I think this game is more important for Kansas City than it is for Dallas. Dallas has their division wrapped up. They just had that bounce back revenge win for the last week before that where they got upset and everyone got all upset in the press conferences, and Dak said he wants every defense to do what Denver did against them, and he obviously looked very good against Atlanta last week, as did the defense, as did the offense. They won. Forget what the score, 43-3, something like that. That might be what we see a lot with Dallas, that we might see them kind of have a week-to-week ping-pong effort and performance because it's hard to stay urgent when you don't have someone breathing down your neck in the division. And I think Kansas City is going to maintain that urgency in that division with the Chargers and with the Raiders and even with the Broncos, but mainly the Chargers. I think this race is going to come down to the Chiefs and the Chargers, and the Chiefs are going to need every win they can get. And this is a big one against Dallas on a national stage where it'll kind of determine the narrative for the next couple of weeks for both of these teams. If Dallas wins this game, Eagles fans aren't going to like it, but every outlet everywhere is going to be calling them a Super Bowl contender and calling them maybe the Super Bowl contender if they win this game. And if Kansas City wins this game, the Super Bowl or bust narrative for Kansas City is back on. And people will be right back on the bandwagon for the Chiefs to win the AFC and the Super Bowl. Do I think either of these teams are going to win the Super Bowl? Probably not. I don't think either of these teams are top 4 in the NFL, in my opinion. But I do think they're probably right outside of that, probably 5th, 6th, or 7th. I think these teams are about even, honestly. I think these teams are as even as you'll get. So I'll take the team that's in Arrowhead with a little more to play for, a little more sense of urgency, and I'll take them with the -2.5.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're very even teams. Give Kansas City a slight edge at quarterback. Slight. I mean, Dak is playing out of his mind this year. Give Dallas an edge in the running game, but ultimately, it's at Arrowhead, like you said, and the Chiefs have a massive coaching advantage in this game. Mm-hmm. And so I'll take the Chiefs in this one, but this one's going to be a fun one to watch.
For sure. I mean, the offenses, these are the 2 best offenses in football.
All right, moving on to, I believe it's a Sunday night game, and I have no clue why. The Pittsburgh Steelers at Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. Are Pittsburgh fans going to travel to this game? We know Chargers fans aren't. Is this stadium just going to be empty?
No, this will be Steelers fans. They're such a national brand. There's so many Steelers fans that live in LA. I think this could be 80,000 Steelers fans.
So Big Ben could return in this game. Still unsure about that. If he doesn't, Dwayne Haskins should be the starter over Mason Rudolph. I thought that last week. After last week, I definitely think it. What do you think? Who should start for the Steelers if Ben doesn't play?
Yeah, if Ben doesn't play, you might as well throw Haskins out there because I don't think it can be really worse than Mason Rudolph. You might as well try something new. But if Roethlisberger plays, I think I like Pittsburgh here. At least to cover the spread, they're a great underdog, and I don't think Roethlisberger is very good. So maybe a lot of those trends that are based in the years from Roethlisberger being good, maybe you can throw them in the trash. But this does feel like the exact type of game that Pittsburgh gives the team more than we expect and maybe wins and pulls off an upset. They're terrible as favorites. They're awful when you think they're going to win. And then when you count them out and you think they're dead, they always seem to pull off an ugly win, whether that be ref assisted or not. I kind of like Pittsburgh here to win and to cover.
Yeah, the Chargers are a hard team to figure out, but their defense is a great matchup for the Steelers. They've run that middle field open look, those 2 high safety looks. They run a light box. They dare you to run, and they're terrible at stopping it. Well, regardless of whether Ben plays or not, the Steelers want to pound the rock. They don't have a great passing game, and so it's going to play into the Steelers' hands. This is a favorable matchup. I mean, I'm not saying the Steelers are a better team, but this is the type of team the Steelers want to play. And, they can make games messy. And the Chargers, I just don't know. I can't get a good read on them. I'm going to take the Steelers in this game. I'm picking the Steelers to go to LA and win this one.
Me too. And the Chargers, seems like every game they play is 27-20, 27-24. It seems like that's every game they play, whether they win or lose. I think I'll say it's the same. I think the Steelers win 24-20 here.
All right. I really expected that to be my shocking pick that we disagreed on, but I guess not. So let's roll on to Monday night, where it would be shocking if I took the Jets to beat the Buccaneers. I am not going to do that, but Tampa Bay has lost 2 in a row. They failed to cover in 3 of their last 4. This is a get-right game for the Bucs, who dropped a get-right game last week, and I don't look for Brady to make that mistake again.
No, Brady's not losing to Daniel Jones. That's basically all I have to say here. The Giants are not it's funny. Every team except for the Lions is technically in the NFC playoff hunt. I would say I'm most sure of any of the teams that the Giants will not be one of those 2 wild cards.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. So I think it's going to be a snoozer of a Monday night game. I think the Bucs will win this one by 3-4 scores.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll get great ratings. You got Tom Brady, you got the New York Giants, and maybe the Manning cast will be fun. I don't know who the guests are, but besides that, it'll still be an ugly game.
They should have Taylor Heineke on as a guest and let him talk about beating Tom Brady.
Yeah, they should bring on everyone who's had weird success against Tom Brady. You could do like Mark Sanchez, Taylor Heineke, Nick
Eli.
Foles, and then Eli, obviously. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's
then
a
you can
fourth.
let Peyton ask him how they managed to beat Brady when he's the best quarterback on the show and he couldn't do it.
Oh, they'll have to get Flacco. Flacco too. He beat Brady in the playoffs a couple times.
Get Foles in there.
Of course, Foles.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up for our Week 11 preview show. Mark, before we get out of here, do you have any final thoughts for us?
Not really. So I didn't think about it. Usually I do. I'll just give a shout out to Bryce Harper right here for winning MVP for the Phillies today. I got Ranger Suarez jersey behind me. He should have got votes for the Cy Young. Zach Wheeler got screwed in the Cy Young voting. But let's hope that these players can replicate the success next year on a team that hopefully can compete around these awesome players. But, got to go spend money to make money. So hopefully the Phillies make us proud, not just with awards next year, but with a little team success as well.
And I want to pour one out for Caleb Kelly, linebacker from Oklahoma. Tore his ACL during the Baylor game. And we didn't even see it, like it cut to commercial, and I didn't even realize till later what happened. But a guy was a 5-star recruit. He's a 5th-year senior at linebacker, and it's his 3rd ACL tear in the last 4 years. So you hate it for the guy. He's team captain, one of those guys that, his career never panned out the way that you thought it would, mostly due to injuries. He has already said, he came out and talked about that was his last game. I know he's going to be joining his former coach, Bob Stoops. He was the last remaining player for OU that played under Bob Stoops. He's going to be joining him on Saturday on TV to break down some of the Big 12 games. So cool opportunity for him. Great guy, leader for the team. But, man, you hate to see a guy's career go out like that on the road in a loss that probably keeps him from going to the college football playoffs, and then his season's over. So, heart goes out to him. That's a sucky way to end your career. So lighting a candle, I guess, for Caleb Kelly.
So real quick before we get out of here, any thoughts on the rumors that LSU might come in and pay Lincoln Riley $12 to $14 million to try to come be their head coach?
I don't think there's anybody that's going to pay Lincoln Riley more than what OU would pay him to keep him. We'll see. I don't see him going anywhere. Although I will say that game at Baylor was the worst Lincoln Riley game I've ever seen. You had and this is a college football podcast, but I'll rant for a second. You had a true freshman quarterback struggling mightily on the road. And they rushed for 0 yards in the second half of a close game. Like, the run game, it wasn't working great, but every first down was some shot play down the field. And I understand Caleb Williams is a vertical passer. You run those guys off, you scramble. Scrambling wasn't working. Nothing was hitting. You needed to get him in rhythm, get the ball out of his hands quick, and hand the ball off. Let your run game do some work. And he didn't do that. I thought the game plan coming in was good, and they got punched in the mouth, and Riley just never adjusted, which isn't something I've seen from him before. So it is a frustrating experience for sure.
Yeah, I've always been a Lincoln Riley guy. I had Oklahoma in that game. It was just very, very disappointing. And my most disappointing thing about it is, I understand he was struggling. He had a bad game for sure, Caleb Williams. I think that it looked a little bad for Lincoln Riley in general for me to put Spencer Rattler back in after their whole fan base came out against Spencer Rattler, rooting for Caleb to get into the game a couple of weeks before that. Caleb had like the best 4 or 5 year or game run that a quarterback's had all year in the country. And then the first sign of struggling, I get that you have your chance at the playoff, but at this point, if Lincoln Riley is invested in Oklahoma, he should be rolling with that freshman quarterback and Caleb Williams and kind of letting him make mistakes and keeping him out there against Baylor. I didn't like benching him. They obviously brought him back into the game in the fourth quarter. I don't know if he's going to be the starter for the rest of the year, but I hope he is. I think regardless of what happens the rest of this year, I think next year Caleb Williams makes you guys a title contender no matter what.
Yeah, he should absolutely be the starter moving forward. I didn't hate sitting him down in the game because I thought that it might be related to his hand that got stepped on in the second quarter. Thought maybe that's where the struggles are coming from. Maybe, it's all going back to that hand. But then when they put him back in, I mean, that obviously wasn't it. You don't put him back in if you took him out originally because his hand hurt. So if you're just, and it was his throwing hand, so it's a big deal. But yeah, if you're going to put him back in, he never should have been out in the first place.
Agreed.
So anyways, that's going to wrap up our college football edition of Chalk Talk. So thank you guys for joining us for episode 26 of Chalk Talk. If you enjoy what you heard on the show, and we know that you do, be sure you smash that subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. Drop us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at _TPL. He is at Mark Henry Jr. _. So from me, from Mark, from the Painted Lines, we'll see you guys next time.